Hello friends, welcome to my channel Pediatrics and Life Tips. In this video, I will talk about scurvy, that is vitamin C or ascorbic acid deficiency in children. First, I will briefly discuss the functions of vitamin C in the body. It is required in collagen synthesis, in neurotransmitter metabolism, that is conversion of dopamine to norepinephrine and tryptophan to serotonin. It is also required in cholesterol metabolism, that is conversion of cholesterol to steroid hormones and bile acids. It is also required in biosynthesis of carnitine. Vitamin C has very important antioxidant function, and it also enhances non-heme iron absorption. Recommended dietary allowance, that is RDA of vitamin C for different ages is as following. Up to 6 months of age, it is 40 mg per day. Then from 6 to 12 months old children, it is 50 mg per day. For 1 to 3 year old, it is 15, and for 4 to 8 year, it is 25. Then from 9 to 13 years, it is 45 mg per day. Now in children from 14 to 18 years old, its requirement is about 65 to 75 mg per day. In pregnant women, RDA is 85 mg per day, and in lactating mother, it is 120 mg per day. Vitamin C requirement is increased during infections, during diarrheal illnesses, exposure to smoking or environmental tobacco smoke. Dietary sources of vitamin C include citrus fruits and fruit juices, peppers, berries, melons, tomatoes, cauliflowers, and green leafy vegetables. Vitamin C is destroyed by prolonged storage, overcooking, and processing of food. Now, causes of vitamin C deficiency. It occurs in children who are fed predominantly heat treated, that is ultra high temperature or pasteurized animal milk or unfortified formulas, and in children who are not receiving fruits and vegetables. It can occur in severe malnutrition and in children who are on fat diets. It also occurs in sick neonate whose feeding has been delayed and is on total parenteral nutrition. So it is better to give parenteral dose of 80 mg per day of vitamin C to full-term infants and 25 mg per kg per day to preterm infants. It is important to note that when a mother intake of vitamin C during pregnancy and lactation is adequate, the newborn will have adequate tissue levels of vitamin C. Breast milk contains sufficient vitamin C to prevent deficiency throughout the infancy. Pathogenesis of scurvy. In this, there is defective formation of connective tissue and collagen in skin, cartilage, dentine, bone, and blood vessels, leading to their fragility. In the long bones, osteoid is not deposited by the osteoblast, so the cortex is thin and trabeculae become brittle and fracture easily. Now I will explain the clinical features of scurvy. Initially, there is irritability, decreased appetite, and low-grade fever. There is musculoskeletal pain and tenderness in the legs. Swelling of the knees and ankles may occur. Infants usually keep his legs semi-flexed at hips and knees, and the feet are rotated outward. This is the frog leg position. There may be pseudoparalysis because of the pain. Subperiosteal hemorrhage may occur, and this results in acute increase in the swelling and pain. In scurvy, the chest findings include depression of sternum and scorbutic rosary, that is the prominent costochondral junctions. In scurvy, the angulation of bead is more sharper and tender than rachitic rosary or vitamin D deficiency. In scurvy, gum changes are usually seen in older children, and these include bluish-purple, spongy swelling of the mucous membrane, especially over the upper incisors. Now, anemia is common in scurvy, and it is due to impaired iron absorption and coexisting nutritional deficiency of vitamin B12 and folic acid. Hemorrhagic manifestation in scurvy include petechiae, purpura, and ecchymosis at the pressure joints. There may be epistaxis, gum bleeding, and perifollicular hemorrhages. Other manifestations in scurvy include poor wound and fracture healing, hyperkeratosis of hair follicles, arthralgia, and muscle weakness. Now for diagnosing scurvy, plain radiographs of the long bones including knee joint should be taken. Initial radiographic changes include ground glass appearance of the shaft, cortex is thin and dense, that is pencil outlining of the diaphysis and epiphysis, white line of Frankel, that is irregular thickened white line at the metaphysis, which is the zone of well calcified cartilage. Epiphyseal centers of ossification, they also have ground glass appearance and are surrounded by sclerotic ring. Late but more specific radiologic features of scurvy include Trommerfeld zone of rarefaction. It is a linear break in bone proximal and parallel to white line. Pelkin spur, that is the lateral protrusion of the white line, it may be present at cortical ends. There may be epiphyseal separation along the line of destruction with either linear displacement or compression of epiphysis against the shaft. In late radiologic features, there may be elevated periosteum which is calcified over the subperiosteal hemorrhage, giving a dumbbell or club-shaped deformity to the affected bone. Now, MRI long bones show acute and healing subperiosteal hematomas, periostitis, metaphyseal changes, and heterogeneous bone marrow signal intensity. Now, in scurvy, plasma ascorbic acid level is less than 0.2 mg per deciliter. Leukocyte ascorbic acid concentration can be done. It is less than or equal to 10 microgram per 10 raised to power 8 WBCs, and this indicates latent scurvy in the absence of signs and symptoms. Now, estimation of saturation of tissues with vitamin C can be done. A test dose of ascorbic acid is given parenterally, and after 3 to 5 hours, urinary vitamin C is measured. If it is less than 80% of the test dose, then this means that vitamin C deficiency is present. In scurvy, there is also generalized monoaciduria. Differential diagnosis of scurvy include arthritis, osteomyelitis, non-accidental trauma, that is child abuse, acrodynia, copper deficiency in which the radiography picture is similar to scurvy, Hinoch-Schönlein purpura, thrombocytopenic purpura, or leukemia. Now, the scurvy is treated with vitamin C supplements and the dose is 100 to 200 mg per day orally or parenterally. Clinical improvement is seen within a week in most cases. However, treatment should be continued for up to 3 months for complete recovery. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share, comment and subscribe to my channel.